G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Jaimie Abbott from Jaimie Abbott, based in Newcastle, Australia. Thanks for your time today, Jaimie.
Thanks, Troy, for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm really excited, as I said before we hit record, on 3 levels. I highly value PR, public speaking, and also very keen for the audience to hear about how your recent pivot to moving online and being able to help more people rather than just one-on-one.
Yeah, no, thank you. I've got so many things I want to share with you. How long have we got?
It'll probably go for 2 hours.
Still not long enough.
The longest one, I think, was an hour and a half. A distilling mate of mine from Starwood Distillery. Hour and a half podcast, but from the downloads, everyone seemed to enjoy it. So it's one of the top 20.
Yeah, great. Well, we'll just talk fast. So
yes,
get through a lot of content.
I won't have to slow down because I do have that problem, particularly with Americans, because I do talk fast and sometimes the accent throws them. So I have to repeat myself a lot.
You won't have that problem. I can understand you very clearly.
Let's start with how we know each other. So you mentioned just before we hit record that you found this podcast and listened to a few episodes and then sent me an email.
Yeah, that's right. So I listen to podcasts all the time, and particularly small business, entrepreneur podcasts, small business marketing, online course creation. And I think you came up as a suggested podcast. And then I thought, I want to go on that show. So I reached out and said, hey, I've got something I'd love to share with your audience. And the rest is history. Here I am.
Here we are. We'll tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Yeah, so I have 2 streams to my business. So I teach people how to be better at public speaking, and also I'm a PR consultant. So I spent 20 years in the media as a journalist and PR officer, media advisor. I've done a whole heap of jobs. And so I have clients on retainer where I do their press releases, pitch their stories to the media. And I've also recently, when I say recently, in the last 6 months, so in 2021, I basically morphed into an online course creator, and I now teach people how to be better at public speaking and how to do their own PR through online courses.
Great. And so you've broken the shackle of that old professional services problem of one-to-one, working with people one-to-one or companies one-to-one. So you're able to leverage your time a lot better, and from that obviously help a lot more people rather than just that one-to-one model.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, you're sort of limited when you do one-on-one, and I still do have one-on-one coaching, and I still have clients on retainer where I do their press releases and represent them to the media to get as much exposure as possible. But I guess last year in 2021, when we were in lockdown in New South Wales, and it was still great. I just thought, I want to scale this business, and everyone was online. So I thought, let's do some online courses, and that's pretty much where I focus my time now. So yep. I would rather, if you wanted a one-on-one with me and I had scheduled that time in my diary to do blog writing or make a video, I would prioritize making the video rather than do the one-on-one $350 session, because I know that video is going to help me get some leverage and reach more people, and then overall get more signups to my courses. Yeah,
that's right. You said $350 session one-on-one.
Yeah, that's what I charge one-on-one, because people, and it happens all the time, and I'm sure so many small business owners can relate to this. People always say, I'd love to have a coffee with you, just to grill your brain. Yep. And so I was just doing too many of these free sessions where, I've spent 20 years training and working to develop that knowledge in my head, not just for you to take it all for free. So, and I still will, depending on who it is, I'll give them some, basic advice, but I've set that up on my website now for a one-on-one for $350, and it works. People who are serious will pay that money, and they will just have their questions prepared, and then that's the opportunity for me to then share my knowledge with them.
Yeah, that's it. With the public speaking, I assume that dried up because of COVID, because a lot of conferences and events cancelled. There would have been some online speaking, I guess, but mostly that died right down.
Yeah, that's right. So obviously it was a different form though, because everyone is now on Zoom. And so that created an opportunity in itself for me to teach people how to present on camera, and including on Zoom, some of the tips and tricks that are happening in Zoom that aren't happening in real life. But as far as the group workshops, and I was running a fair few in Brisbane, Sydney, Newcastle pre-COVID. Yeah, haven't done a group workshop. I think I did squeeze one in beginning of last year in between the two sort of COVID waves that hit. We had that freedom for a couple of months. But yeah, since then it's all been online. And you're right, the public speaking and the live presentations certainly went away.
I'm guessing one of your tips for me for doing these on Zoom, these podcasts, is stop doing them in my activewear, I imagine.
Well, it depends. If people are going to be seeing your face, I think eventually that's the plan with your podcast, doing it on video, then yes, maybe. Although I can only see your top half. So, whatever, if you're wearing shorts or budgie smugglers.
Budgie smugglers always. Yeah.
I wouldn't even know.
And on PR, I've always respected the value of PR, but do you find that has diminished? I guess two questions: in demand and also effectiveness over the last 10 years with social ads now, and the new digital marketing.
That's a really great question. I've actually found the opposite. In fact, newsrooms, so journos, they are under more pressure and they're being scaled back as far as the resources and time than they ever have been. So they are really under pressure to produce more with little resources. And so as a PR consultant, if I write an amazing press release for a client, or I teach people how to do that themselves, if you hit the who, what, when, where, why, and how, all the questions a journo wants to ask, you throw in some questions, some quotes, and you provide a great quality photo, there's no reason why that journo won't take pretty much almost word for word your press release and put that into their story, into the newspaper, or into a radio story, or online, or so many different ways now media is happening. And so I actually find PR, I think I saw a stat the other day that PR agencies have grown 30% in the last 5 years.
Wow.
And that's why, because newsrooms really are under more pressure than ever before. They are producing content 24/7. It's very competitive. And so a good press release and a good sort of pitch to the media for fresh content and exclusive, a great story that's going to really tickle those news values that I teach people about, is going to get a run. And so I actually find it's a great opportunity for people now to do their own PR or to get a PR agent. Yeah,
that's the biggest tip I think I learned in London about 15 years ago when I was over there. I went to a session on public relations or PR, and it sounds obvious, but the big takeaway I took was, if you have your press release 99% done that they can just pick it up and run with it, you've got a lot better chance, as opposed to them having to fight with the copy or come back and forth, etc. And it sounded obvious after they said it, but I'd never thought about it that way, just how powerful that is.
Yeah, and absolutely. And 20 years ago, I was working as a journalist in radio in Sydney, and then in a town called Tamworth, the country music capital, where I was a news presenter and journalist there. And we used to frown upon each other if another journalist would print word for word a press release. We used to say, oh, it's lazy journalism, you can rewrite that. But these days, it's not uncommon, just because if you write an amazing press release, which is newsworthy, and you're giving it to someone exclusively, why should they rewrite it? And I definitely see that more often. And that's about, establishing those relationships with journalists as well. If I can write what they want, that's going to fit the style of their readers, then I often will see word for word, especially quotes and even a couple of paragraphs here and there, word for word. There is no reason for them to rewrite it, especially if it's exclusive content.
How did you start out?
So I was a journalist. I started out, I did a bit of work, I did work experience everywhere, and picked up a little bit of work at Today Tonight in Sydney, doing some researching there. I then got my first job while I was at uni in Bathurst. I did a comms degree at 2GB Radio in Sydney. And I was doing the fabulous shift, the 9:30 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. shift overnight, Friday and Saturday nights. So I would just do all my uni, and then I would drive from Bathurst to Sydney, which is a couple of hours, and then read the news Friday and Saturday night. And that was an amazing experience. And then I did that for only a couple of months, and the news director said, let's put you on full time. So I negotiated to do the final 6 months of my degree. It was about 2.5 years into my comms degree, I did it via correspondence.
Right.
And a lot of the last 6 months was an internship anyway. And I was working in, the number one radio station in Australia, in Sydney. We had Ray Hadley and Alan Jones there. And it was a great learning curve for me because I got to cover some amazing stories. I was working the night that Saddam Hussein was captured in 2003. And I got to break that story live on air as that was happening overseas because I was doing the overnight shift. And then I moved out to Tamworth, and I've got in and out of politics myself, working for a politician. I've been a candidate. I've been a local councillor in Port Stephens where I live. And I've just, sort of dabbled in and out of that. But then I spent 6 months in Afghanistan as well when I'm in the Air Force Reserves. I should mention why I was in Afghanistan. I'm in the Air Force Reserves as a PR officer. And I've been there since 2007. I signed up and went to Afghanistan in 2011 and then came back, ran for politics, didn't win in the seat of Newcastle, and then set up my business after that. And I guess the motivation was I'd worked as a journalist and I saw so many people struggle on how to get their story across, how to master their message on camera. So initially I set it up as a media training business. In 2013, I'd made a lot of mistakes as a candidate on camera and jumping up on stage all the time and presenting to an audience. And each time I'd make a little mistake, I would bottle up that lesson learned and write it down and think I can teach people how not to do this. And so it was really a media training, public speaking training business in the beginning, but literally took a couple of months before I got pulled into the PR sort of sphere again, because that's what people wanted. There was a need for that, for people to have someone write their press releases in particular and then liaise with journalists on their behalf. So having worked in the media up until, I'd worked in the media for about 14 years on and off in TV, radio, as a political media advisor. And then in Afghanistan, I was liaising with journalists and I set up the very first media training package there. So I'd had all this experience, both on camera, off camera, as an advisor. And it just was kind of a natural progression to set up a business and teaching people how to do that themselves.
My God, you're giving Tina Tower a run for her money. You know Tina, and I had her on episode 40, and as I said to you before we hit record, I didn't need to drink coffee for a week after talking with Tina. She's a real energizer bunny like yourself. And like to keep busy.
I follow Tina and I want to work more with her. Actually, I'm thinking about signing up to her program that she has, and she's just very contagious. You're right.
She is. She's great. So 2013, you decided to make the jump, start your own business. How old were you when you decided to do that?
Let's think. I think I was 30.
30, yep.
Yes, 30.
Do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business over the 8 years?
Yeah. So look, the first year, looking back, I made a loss. I spent all this money on setting up a website and putting on staff. And after a year, actually got an office, a huge office, went in with some people. And that was in the main area of Newcastle, and made that mistake, increased my expenses. Then I put a full-time staff member on. I was getting all these clients and making, I remember at one point, as soon as I started the PR part, it was 10,000 a month, just like that.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, I need to put a full-time staff member on. So I did, had the flashy office, spent a lot more money on ads, like giant ads in the newspapers. I was making all this money, just going from nothing to 10 grand a month, literally in a couple of months. And so, I would look back now and say I made a loss. A lot of money slipped through my fingers and unnecessary expenses. And so that was for a couple of years. And then probably maybe 2015, 2016, I started getting some good quality retainer clients. I was on my own by this point, still a sole trader. And then I have to look at my actual timeline, but I think it was about 2017 or maybe a bit earlier than that, 2016, that I set it up as a company and really just started being smarter about my expenses. I was probably earning maybe 60, 70,000 a year back then.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't really until the last couple of years where I've scaled to a six-figure business. I would say probably 2019 was probably when it became a six-figure business. And then in the last 6 months, so from mid 2021 to now, I have quadrupled my income compared to what it was the year before.
Holy shit.
And that really is putting it down to, so many things, but, really getting smarter with my marketing. and having a consistent strategy there. And also the online, morphing into an online business where I'm offering online group coaching and online one-on-ones and self-study courses. And I've got an academy now. So many things that I'm doing at once really has helped.
Yeah, fantastic. Congratulations. That's phenomenal growth. And how many team members? You started as yourself, then you put someone on, then back to yourself. And now how many full-time equivalents roughly?
14. Yeah,
wow.
I've got 14, and that's people in Australia as well as in the Philippines.
Yep.
So recently, a couple of months ago now, put on a full-time VA in the Philippines who is amazing.
Yep.
I wish I had got her years ago, but you live and learn. And so I've got copywriters in Australia. I've got a Facebook ads manager in Australia as well, website person, another PR person as well who writes media releases for our clients. And then I've got website designers, graphic designers, video editors, just a general PA who's my full-time VA as well. I've just definitely made mistakes along the way with staff.
Go back 7 months ago, mid last year, you told me before you only had 2 team members. You've gone from 2 to 14 now in 6 months.
I had 1 team member.
Yeah. Sorry. So you 2 including yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Include myself there.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. So I've gone to 14 in such a short space of time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about people in a moment, but yeah, congratulations. That's amazing growth.
Thank you. Thanks. I feel like I have imposter syndrome though. And I feel like, oh, this won't last. This is just a temporary thing.
Yep.
And that's just natural, I guess, to feel that way because I feel like I could all drop off tomorrow. Yeah. Who knows?
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
When sounds really lame, but when I got my first academy member, so I have a public relations academy, people get access to all my courses, $57 a month. And so that's why it sounds lame. It's such a small amount. Plus they get once a month live coaching with me, which, $57 a month, people are happy just for the coaching alone, let alone all the courses and future courses. And I got my first client and actually had come through the funnel. So had come through my lead magnet on my website, someone I didn't even know, was not connected to on LinkedIn. And she signed up to my academy. And that was kind of even though I'd sold all these courses and I did a live coaching course for $1,000 a head in October last year, and I had, great success with that. Just that one $57, and it's no minimum commitment. So someone could drop off after a month.
Yeah.
But just signing up organically, and I watched how that person came through my funnel was probably, the greatest sense of achievement where I felt I had made it. Everything I had put out there in the universe, the free content, the blogs, the videos, it worked.
Yep.
Yeah.
What does success look like to you?
Passive income. And it's, and being a bit more flexible with my time. Sometimes I feel like I'm a slave to the business. And that's because I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I would watch YouTube clips. I've got 2 young kids who are 3 and 1. And as soon as they go to bed, I'm watching these YouTube clips on marketing techniques and how to do lead magnets and how to use Kajabi, which is the platform I use for my courses. And so I think success would be having that passive income, and I've got that already now, but not enough, but I've got, passive income, which is just turning over like my Google ads on certain blogs that have got huge reach, but then being a bit more flexible and thinking I don't have to work on Fridays.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast growing business?
Oh, it's all about your email list.
Yep.
Yeah, that's probably my number one thing. And I've learned that the hard way as well. I've got a list that I just had sitting there dormant for years, and I wasn't engaging with them. And then now I engage with them every single week. And that's where my course sales and my clients are coming from. Just giving away that free content every single week, sharing tips, sharing videos, sharing a blog, sharing my latest podcast episode, just once a week. People are opening up the emails, they're clicking on the links in there, and they are signing up to the courses. And it doesn't happen straight away either. That's the other tip. I started emailing them in August last year. I didn't have a course until October, and I got quite a few signups from my email list alone, as well as just some social media ads. But really the email list is where it's at.
Yeah. I remember reading the DMA, Direct Marketing Association of America, put some stats out a couple of years ago, which showed that for every $1 you spend on email marketing, you get $44 back. think social ads might have been next, which is $22, and then SEO was $20, and it kept diminishing from there. So a lot of people underestimate the power of an email list.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about the lead magnet too. I've got 3 lead magnets now. I'm not necessarily convinced that's the right strategy. I think everyone always says one lead magnet, one customer journey, but I do have 2 streams. So I have PR and public speaking, very different. They are different clients, but then again, people who do my online, I've got a 30-day group coaching program. It's all about how to write press releases and pitch to the media, but it's also finishes off with a public speaking module. And people love that because they can feel confident to go on camera or in front of an audience, and public speaking is a tool for PR as well. But at the moment, I've got the 2 different public speaking and PR lead magnets. Then I've got a combined masterclass, free masterclass lead magnet, which combines the 2, PR and public speaking.
And for the audience that don't have much exposure or experience, the online businesses lead magnet is something you give away for free that is of value to the audience, and they give you their email address, and then they're opted into the email list.
Yeah, and so I'm probably getting about a dozen signups a day. I'd like that to be more. Where I'm capturing their emails, because they're all not converting to sales, of course. But then it's hard to measure, you see, Troy, because often people will say to me that are signing up now, I've been following your posts on LinkedIn for the last 5 years, or I've been seeing your videos for the last couple of months. And I think about it myself. When I sign up to someone's coaching program, I've followed their free content for years. And so that's true. So what you put out now and you think, oh, it's not going anywhere, it does pay off. And that's when I always tell myself, when I feel like giving up, I think, well, all the coaching programs I'm a part of now, like Tina Tower, who you mentioned, I've been following her free content for years. And that's how you build up trust with someone, and they finally will sign up to their program. So it's definitely the advice I'll give, that lead magnet, nurture them through the email. You can do an email sequence when someone signs up to an email lead magnet, because it actually does, research shows that it takes 11 touch points before someone will sign up to you. So that means 11 different emails, or they might see your videos, or you might retarget them through Facebook ads before they'll actually buy. And so, I've got people now that have followed me for years. I used to email them fairly regularly, and then I just let the list go. And that was a mistake I made, but I'm hopefully rectifying that now.
How did you fund your business?
Oh, yeah. So basically I started with nothing. I just had a couple of $100 for a website. And that's the beauty of it. I got a media story in the Newcastle Herald, where I live, and they did a huge story. I'd come off politics, so I had a bit of a high profile in the town. I'd run a campaign for 18 months, and this was a big business story in the Newcastle Herald about how I was starting up this business. I reached out to a few contacts, and then I started getting clients. So I didn't really need a lot of capital to begin with. And then I certainly built that up from having retainer clients come on board, and then I got the office from there. But it was just purely out of personal savings, really, to answer that question in a roundabout way. And it wasn't a lot when I started out.
No, professional services, you don't obviously need that much. So no investors, bank finance, or grants along the way?
Nope.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Absolutely. I say this all the time. I say, if I won lotto today, I would still do the public speaking training in particular. I love that. I find that so rewarding, especially if someone comes to me and they're extremely nervous, anxious, and it's affecting their career or their business because they can't convert. They can't convert a message, let alone a product, and sell it. And so I find that really rewarding. And so if money was no object and I didn't need to work, I still would do the public speaking training in particular. And I'd still probably do the teaching of the PR. I probably wouldn't necessarily do the writing of press releases and pitching, because that can be a real hard slog sometimes. I'm very selective with who I take on, because I've had clients that I'll get them the front page of the Australian newspaper and they're still not happy. So yeah, it's really hard to measure the value of PR as well, because it's a news story, it's news coverage. And generally, I said it, just going off a side note here, I say, if you get a story in the paper for someone, whatever the cost of that space would be to take out an ad, let's just say it was $5,000 for a half-page ad,
Yep.
and you get a half-page story, we normally times it by 3, because
Right.
3 times the amount of people are going to read a story
Mhm.
as opposed to an ad. I probably would argue it's probably even higher. People see an ad, they just don't even look at it at all. And so, yeah, it can be a hard slog getting media coverage for clients, and you can never guarantee it either, depending on what's making news that day and other things that are going on. And so that's a challenge, but I love it. I'm very good at it, and I get a lot of media coverage from my clients, but it's hard work sometimes if you're competing with other stories going on in the media at the moment. But I would definitely teach people how to do their own public relations if money was no object.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Yeah, having an office and staff at the time. Like, I had a full-time staff member and didn't really think it through, and I think the office, and a friend of mine who's a really successful entrepreneur, a real estate agent, actually, he said to me at the time, and I ignored his advice, and he said, don't get an office if you don't need it, because you're a service-based business. And I normally go to the client's office. And he said, it's all about your ego with your office. And it was. It was. I had this giant office. I shared it with other people. And it was just, I never went in there.
Yep.
I was always going to the client's business. It was a side hustle, my business at the time as well. And so I had another job. And so I just had this office just sitting there, just as a billboard, really. And I did not need it. And it was not a huge expense, but it was an unnecessary expense.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Consistency. Being consistent with marketing, particularly. And I get really into something and I'm obsessed with it. And I was like watching YouTube clips and just doing lead magnets and signing up to online courses, and I become obsessed. And then I might have a couple of weeks where I'm chilling out now. And that's not great. I think consistency is important, and I need to do that. I'm doing it better now. And funnily enough, since I've been doing it, my business is thriving.
Yep.
Because just consistent messaging. I'm posting to LinkedIn every single week with a new article. We do twice a week now. I've created a newsletter on LinkedIn, which is getting huge amount of reach and leads. And if I wasn't doing that, that's opportunities that I probably would be missing.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
What I've enjoyed the least is the admin side. So I have sometimes struggled to write back to people on my emails. I've got big quite quickly, and I didn't probably have the systems in place. Everyone talks about systems. I didn't have them in place. And even your email to me, Troy, I never got back to you. That's what I don't like, because I've got so many emails, clients, tasks, my VA, I've got a lot going on, plus, managing a household with 2 little kids. I don't like that part of not being reliable with getting back to people. My admin can fall a little bit.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
Flexibility. I love the flexibility. I love the money. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, it's great being profitable, because, I love my cocktails and buying cocktails, being able to afford cocktails when I go out. But I love that. I find that rewarding. I find it rewarding setting goals and meeting those goals, reaching those goals. And I love helping people. I think it's not just about the money. People who are the most successful do it because they're passionate. You can see. And I love helping people. I love teaching people. To me, it's all so easy to get media coverage in your business. I find that there's so much opportunity out there now for small business owners, medium business, large business owners to get media coverage and scale their business worldwide, to be guest posting. And it's just, I love it. I love showing them just a couple of little techniques and seeing the results that they get.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Yeah, the biggest mindset shift, probably to delegate. I have always, now a lot of people I'm sure are nodding listening to this, I've always tried to do everything myself, including manage my inbox. I've just now started to give that task to my VA. And she's struggling because there's just so much coming in, but that's been a mindset shift to let things go.
Yep.
And even now, all I'll do in my business is record the video and get my VA to do the rest, to transcribe it, to put it up onto WordPress, to put it into LinkedIn, to pitch to online news sites, all that sort of thing, which I would always do. Even the editing I would do. I know how to do that. That's going to take me a couple of hours out of my business.
Exactly.
When I could just offload that to someone else who can do it in a shorter time.
Yeah, I'm the same. Delegation these days is my middle name, but I spend an hour recording these on Zoom. Some guests like yourself, it'll be an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then my offshore team takes care of everything else. And they do a wonderful job and a lot better job than I could do. But being an ex-perfectionist and mild OCD, I think, it's been a long journey over those 22 years in business to fully let go and trust other people.
I hear you.
What is the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Consistency. Absolutely. Especially with marketing, you need to be consistent. So you need to be consistent on your social media, your LinkedIn particularly, and your emailing of your list. It needs to be consistent. I hate going to someone's Facebook page and I haven't seen a post since 2019. Well, why do you have that page there? You need to be consistent with everything you do.
Want to become the best manager you can be? Check out our Kick-Ass Manager course at growasmallbusiness.com. Do the course and add your fellow managers for no extra cost. Join the 30%. 70% of people quit their job because of their manager.
Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Yeah, so some wins, I have gone with my heart and not my head. So I have had some staff who were doing my online course stuff, and they were lovely people, lovely. But they were charging me too much, or they weren't doing as good a job, and it wasn't until I'd get someone else in to help with a task I realized, okay, and I wouldn't want to let that person go. Because I had an amazing long-standing VA. I didn't want to let him go because I just was attached to him personally. He's a lovely person. I knew his backstory, but really I was losing money because I was keeping him on. So that's definitely a mistake I've made with adding people to the team, really thinking personally rather than functionally.
It is very, very difficult. Yeah. What are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Yeah, so regular team meetings, especially in this virtual world environment. I have a regular team meeting. We're not enough. I should do it more, but we do it once a week. And then I should also use my project management tools. I use Trello. I should use that more effectively as well, so we all have visibility on what each other is working on. I think that would help with kick-ass sort of culture, and everyone's on board and they know, okay, so person A is doing this, so I need to do this by this deadline, whereas we're all kind of working in silos at a time. So I think that is definitely something I'd recommend to anyone, including myself, to follow that advice, to be able to have visibility and just regular check-ins with your team. And I rely on WhatsApp and email too much with communicating with the team, whereas that face-to-face, even on Zoom, is going to be a lot more powerful.
Yes. Yeah. Tell the audience how you've handled balance.
I haven't handled it well. I have to be honest, in the past. But one thing I swear by is what I call batching. So batching is where I'll allocate time in my diary to doing 10 videos, or I do my podcast. I'll do 5 podcasts in one day, 5 podcasts the next. Or I'll sit down and allocate time to write blogs. That might be an afternoon where no one is allowed to book anything in my calendar. And I think I'm just going to write blogs this afternoon, and I'll turn my phone off, no distractions, and I just get all the content out. That has helped me with my business and my work-life balance. Otherwise, I was just working 24/7. I was, I've got to write a blog, I've got to write my email list. I've got my next 3 months worth of emails written and loaded, ready to go to my list every week. So that has really helped with my frame of mind, my work-life balance. I now don't work in the evenings, where I was working every night. And, I've got a partner who was like wanting to watch Netflix. I'm like, no, I've got things to do on my online business. I was staying up with a laptop, just working. I was loving it. But at the end of the day, I was just fatigued, and that's not great to spend time with my family and friends and to go for nice walks. So batching is really how I've got that work-life balance almost down pat.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself over the years?
So much. Oh my goodness. Like, to the point where sometimes I probably couldn't even afford it, and I've spent $10,000 on a coaching program. I absolutely prioritize it. Even now, I'm part of Sarah Cordoner's Edupreneur Academy, Amy Porterfield's List Building Society, and that's monthly coaching, Graham Cochrane's academy that he has as well. It's called Six Figure Coaching. I'm always doing courses. I'm about to sign up to Mari Folio's B School, and then probably Amy Porterfield's Digital Course Academy. I'm always spending money on people that I want to be like and that I want to learn from. So yeah, always listening to podcasts whenever I go for a walk with my kids in the pram. I don't listen or read enough books these days. I'm more podcasts or online or blogs or doing the online courses. Love Kajabi because I have the app Kajabi.
Yes.
And I can just watch people's courses on there. So if someone has a Kajabi course, I'll often gravitate towards that because I just like how I can watch it on the app, as opposed to say Thinkific or any of the other ones, because they don't. I'm sure Thinkific will get on board and have an app for people on their mobiles to watch courses in the next short near future, I'm sure. But yeah, Kajabi courses I'm always listening to and watching. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons we started the Distillers Institute just under 2 years ago, and we launched on the Teachable platform, and I was really frustrated with it. So about a year ago, we made the decision to move over to Kajabi, and one of the things that I sold it to my co-founders with was the fact they had the app and showed them how easy it was. And because we record a monthly webinar, we've got 360 students in our courses now. And each month, like tonight, we're interviewing an expert in the distilling space here in Australia, or someone that owns a distillery, and then record it, obviously, and put it in the course so people can watch it at another time. And now they can easily watch it on their mobile when they're out and about. Yeah,
great.
And what about mentors or coaches?
Yeah, so I have sought out people like Sarah Cordoner, she's an online course creation specialist. Followed her for years, her YouTube clips, her podcast, everything. And then I started paying her for sessions recently, where I would just pay her $350, I think she charges for a one-on-one session, and just grill her brain with all these different things. And that really has helped me, as well as the Amy Porterfields of the world. I mean, her List Building Society, and she picked me recently to do a one-on-one with. That's great. So absolutely, people who I see their business and think I want my business like that, I will pay them to do, if they offer it, to grill their brain for an hour. Absolutely.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
Not officially, but I have my own personal board of directors where I will go to someone if I want advice on something, or if I want someone to be my cheerleader and cheer me on, if I want someone to talk me out of something, or I want, professional advice, personal advice. I've come to a fork in the road, and I'm now, another person I've sought out actually is a woman called Amanda Rose. She's a strategic connector, she's founder of all these different businesses including Western Sydney Women in Sydney, and I've paid her for mentoring as well. And she's someone I will always go to when I have a problem, or if I've got a professional dilemma and I want to take on a client, or if I don't want to take on a client, should I take on a client, I'll ask her advice and pay her for that. And she's always been on the mark as well. I once didn't follow her advice and learn my lesson. So yeah, I've definitely got people that I can turn to when I have business dilemmas. Yeah, absolutely.
That's good. Yeah. Right, Jaimie, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Finding the right staff to help you. And delegating.
Absolutely. Yep. Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
Ooh, I Rich Dad Poor Dad, probably one of them. And then he wrote Retire Young, Retire Rich.
Cash Flow Quadrant as well. Robert Kiyosaki.
Yep. Yeah. Even though it doesn't give you a lot of the how to, it certainly inspired me in business for sure.
And changes the way you think as well. So I think I enjoyed Cash Flow Quadrant more than Rich Dad Poor Dad, but they're both great books.
Yeah.
Any great podcasts for online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
Yeah, lots. I'm always listening to podcasts. I listen to Amy Porterfield's Online Marketing Made Easy. Let me have a look at all my favorites now. I listen to Tim's podcast, the big business, small
business, big marketing.
Small business, big marketing. I listen to a woman called Suze Chadwick as well, Brand Builders Lab podcast. She's great. Then there's people in the States, Julie Solomon that I listen to as well, Fempreneur podcast, Dave Ramsey, just because I want a bit of inspiration sometimes. I listen to Mama Mia's Lady Startup Stories, Mia Friedman's Lady Startup sort of movement she has going as well. They're really
she's done
inspiring.
extremely well, because that started. She's Australian, isn't she? It started here.
Yes, she is. Yeah. She's got this lady startup course, which is great, really great.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
An email marketing software program. So I use Active Campaign, which I love, and definitely recommend that. That's, if I had to pick one thing, it would be my email marketing software.
Well, I think that's an Australian product, isn't it? Active Campaign.
It might be, because I had a call from Active Campaign yesterday, and it was an Aussie guy. So I don't know.
Sure. I'm pretty sure they're Australian. Yeah. I hear great things about them. Never actually tested it out myself. But finally, my favorite question: what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
Watch your expenses. Don't let your ego get in the way. And that's what a lot of unnecessary expenses come down to. In my situation, it was my ego. Having the flashy website to begin with, when really I could have done it all just on LinkedIn. I could have just got my name out there and connected and put my articles out there on LinkedIn to begin with. So you don't really need a website. I mean, you do, but not when you first begin. Just get started, put your stuff out there. LinkedIn, really. I would just tell myself that, because I spent way too much on my website to begin with, and my office and my business cards, having it all. And you don't really need that. It's all about connections. For sure.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. Thanks so much for your time today, Jaimie. I really enjoyed it. And I know the audience will get a lot of value out of it. Wonderful success, bobbing around 1 to 2 team members since 2016. And then 6 or 7 months ago, just went through the roof and quadrupled top line and added another 12 team members. So we'll have to have you back on in a couple of years, I think, see where you're at then.
Thanks so much, Troy. I really appreciate your time.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.